Hope you guys are all having an awesome Sunday. A couple of us were just kicking it today, and so I reached out to some of my brothers and see if they want to just get on and chat about some stuff. So, what's up? Yeah. So let's go ahead and get in the intro, and we'll get started. All right, let's get a couple people added in here. We got Mr. Spoons. He's been on before. How's it going, Spoons?
Good, you?
Good. And we got Mr. Dreadhead. What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
Just hanging out. What have you guys been up to this morning?
Shopping, getting ready for the next week.
Yeah.
Laundry.
Laundry.
I need to get out there and wash the bike and get all that salt off from yesterday's ride.
Yeah, I need you to come over and wash my bike too. Yeah,
Call a prospect.
riding through that slushy, salty snow was fun for sure.
Yeah.
That was an adventure. Let's not repeat it anytime soon.
Yeah,
It was fun.
it was good.
Snow blowing across the road. I mean, it wasn't like that on Wednesday when I took a quick ride up through there just to make sure everything was good. So, knowing that, we probably wouldn't have went that route.
Yeah.
Wind.
All right, we got Mr. Joe is saying morning, gents. We got Judas on.
What up?
Let's see if we can. What's up, dude?
What's going on, Judas?
I'm trying to make it so I can see. There we go. That works. Now we can see Mr. Dreadhead.
This chair's a little bit short for streaming, but it works.
Yeah, for sure. It's all good, man. What have you been up to, Judas?
Oh, we had went out for breakfast this morning for a friend's birthday, and then we got the in-laws coming over for dinner, so I just had to toss some meat on the smoker for that. But that's it, chilling. It's been a day full of food so far. Getting fat today.
Yeah, we were just talking about how we were riding through some snow yesterday and how Spoons needs to go wash his bike. I was like, I think we all need to wash our bikes now.
Yeah, that snow was fun, huh?
I was telling those guys on my way home, it'd be nice if all the water in my hose isn't frozen, so I could actually wash my bike.
Yep.
But
I've been doing the microfiber cloth and Windex wipe downs. So
yeah. Well, yeah, I tried to do that after yesterday, though.
yeah, right.
Yeah, you need to fully soak that thing.
Yeah.
So, hey, you're back. Sweet. Well, guys, fun weekend of riding in the cold. Let's talk about some motorcycle stuff.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah.
as always, you go ahead and if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and ask them. I kind of had a topic in mind that we can talk about, something that I think about often, and probably since the beginning of my time in clubs, I've been thinking about this question and this topic, but we can also talk about other topics too. So if you guys want to bring up something else, or you guys have something a little bit off topic, I'm also good with that. The topic I was thinking about chatting about today is like lazy club members and what kind of different aspects of that is, what are your thoughts about that, the effects that it has on the club, the the whole everything.
You're going straight for the jugular here, huh?
Yeah, I am for sure.
The
I
big
think
guns.
it's one of those topics I think that doesn't get discussed, right? But I think it's on everybody's mind,
It
right?
doesn't get discussed because, I mean, we all have those members in the club, and you're afraid to say anything because they're gonna know you're sort of like passively aggressively like poking at them, right?
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, let's be real, we know who we are, right? So I don't know. I mean, I'll start off with that. We had a discussion. We had a meeting this last weekend, and I know some of this sort of came up, and I'm like, you know what? The shame of it is there are members that are very bright. They mean well. They love the club, this and that. But no matter how cool they may be or how well that they may mean, if you never see them with a bike between their legs, whenever they speak, my brain sort of goes numb when it has to do with like club business. I may even completely agree with what they have to say, but because I never see them taking an active role in the club, it's like what they have to say just sort of falls on deaf ears, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be blunt, but that's the way I feel.
Yeah, no,
But the truth hurt.
I definitely have felt that way before. And I think maybe part of this goes into like what's perceptions versus reality, right? Is like, I think that's hard too, is you might perceive someone as lazy, but what is the reality? You know, what are they going through in their personal life? You know?
For sure, yeah.
And
Yeah.
what else is going on? And is there something that we're not understanding there? Right. So
Yeah.
like I said, there's a lot of aspects, you know, to this topic. And so,
Yeah.
you know, there are some things that I give my brothers passes on for being lazy, that just things that are going on in their life, you know. One of those I think is like dealing with depression and anxiety, you know, and how hard that is for some people. And, you know, I think instead of the club causing them, you know, more stress in their life, you know, I'm more like, hey, you know, the club is a bonus part in your life. And if you need to like take a little bit of, you know, time from the club just to kind of decompress and get your head on, you know, I think that's okay, you know, and something that I've definitely seen and experienced with, you know, brothers in the past.
So in direct regard to the depression and the anxiety portion of it, right? If it wasn't for the club, I'm just going to get personal real quick for a minute, but if it wasn't for the club, I've been hiding for the last, 12 years, and actually started treatment 2 weeks ago. And speaking with some other guys offline, there's been a true reason as to why, and I didn't want it to affect my ability to be an active member in the club. I didn't want it to affect my ability to in society, but it was starting to. And it might be too early for me to be having distractions to pull me out of the club when I need to be. That's just how I feel and how I've been approaching it. So,
Yeah. You got any thoughts on that, Spoons, at all?
No, not really. I mean, I kind of agree with all three of you on what you said there.
Yeah, so I think what the part that gets me about like lazy members is, number one, you know, I think be careful of what members you're personally judging, right? If you're going to judge someone lazy, you better damn well know what's going on in their life, right? It's like, don't judge somebody without really understanding them and trying to understand the situation. But the hard thing for me is members that are being lazy, and I truly just know it's because of laziness. You know, it's not because of like, you know, dealing with depression or anxiety. It's not because of family circumstances. It's not because of work. Like, they just want to be at home, you know, and they just want to, you know, doing whatever else that they want to be doing. And so I think that's the part that gets me, is the ones that like they don't have good reasons for. You know, does that makes sense?
Yeah.
Almost classified.
It's hard to know what their reasons are if they never show up and they never talk though either though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So somebody may have a legit excuse, or they may have legit reasons. They may be legitimately going through hard times. But if they never show up, you never know, then it's hard to know at the same time. So you're right, it's hard to judge. What I'm saying though is this, right? It's not so much that I think they're pieces of shit or anything like that, because outside of a motorcycle club, it wouldn't even make a difference, right? But when you're in a motorcycle club and you never ride a motorcycle, not everyone's going to know your backstory, but they are going to have natural perceptions of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is what it is. Whether it's fair or unfair is not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying it is what it is. That's the perception that people have.
Yeah, and I think in my experience, you know, with the club is like there is, like I said, there's people that are doing less than other people and they have good reasons for it, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the people that are doing less than others in the club and they don't have good reasons for it, right?
Like we have a brother that got in an accident and was hurt for a long time. So he's somebody you don't see on a bike often. He recovered, starts to ride, and then fucking gets hit at a light again, right? Now he's hurt again, right? You know what I mean? Like the poor dude's just got bad luck, right? That's not the type of person I'm talking about, because we all know exactly why he's not on his bike, right? You know, but there are other people that you just rarely ever see riding. And you can tell by their mile logs and stuff like that, because we keep track of that, you know, and all that. And you've been in the club for a certain amount of time and you have very few miles, then it just sort of makes you question, are you in the club because you want a cool patch on your back, or are you in the club because you want to get out and ride with your bros, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that brings up a good point too. And also, you know, what are you doing just to spend time with your bros, you know? Or what are you doing to better the club, right? Is like maybe sometimes your schedule doesn't just work with riding, you know?
Right.
And maybe some guys just like to get out and ride more than you do, you know?
Yeah.
But there's other ways to be actively involved in the club. And like, are you doing that? Right.
Yeah.
And so the club is more than just motorcycles. You know, the club is a brotherhood. You know, the club is a family. You know, the club is about doing stuff together and about being there for each other.
Well,
And,
Do you notice like a seasonal laziness, or are you noticing more of a all the time lazy and not really just basing it on winter or it's too the other?
yeah, and I'm not even specifically saying it's something like I'm recognizing right now. I'm
Yeah.
just talking about like just the overall arching theme. I'm not bringing this up because I feel like it's a current issue, right? I'm bringing
Yeah,
it
for sure.
because I think it's an issue for individual members, you know, just dealing with their brothers, you know, is like we all form opinions about each other, right? And I think that's probably one that gets brought up as like casting shade or casting judgment on a brother based on like his activity levels, right? And I think what Judas was trying to say is like, yeah, you do feel a little bit more like your opinion's worth more in the club if the more active you are, right? It's kind of like, well, I'm more involved in the day-to-day operations, and you know, shouldn't I say like, you know, matter a little bit more, right? than somebody that you don't see very much, but at the end of the day, they still have an equal vote, you know, in a motorcycle club, right? At least ours. And so,
But that's where it comes to, I think, communication amongst brothers is key. If they don't speak about it and let you know that they're struggling, but in the same sense, that brother and be like, hey, we're noticing that you're not here, there's something you can do to help you. Like, we've got to communicate both sides on receiving and
there's that line too, like that you just did with Playboy, right? Where he said multiple times in there, like we remind ourselves this is just for fun, right? So it is just for fun. But there still is like an organizational side of it. There are still like bylaws, there are still minimums, there's stuff like that, you know. So you ride that line where it's like, well, we all want to get out there, ride hard, charge hard, and stuff like that. And so it's just, again, like, it's whether it's fair or not, it still is the case that people will have opinions on people if you never friggin' show up, right? Now, like Tom's saying that if you don't communicate as to why you're not showing up, you're just going to be perceived as maybe you don't care about the club, you don't like your brothers, you don't want to spend some time with them. So, you know, communication is key, though. But it is a motorcycle club, so the hope is that we'll all try to get out as often as we can. It's like Shots, I've heard you say before, like, hey man, if you can't make this ride, fine, but just don't tell me you can't make the ride because you have to mow your lawn, because you could have mowed your lawn yesterday, right, or this morning before the ride or something. That's a lame excuse, right? Yeah. So there's a line where is somebody lazy or do they have shit going on? We don't necessarily always know, but the perception is just naturally there, and that's the hard part where you have to deal with that.
Yeah, I like that perspective in you bringing up, you know, Playboy saying that motorcycle clubs is just for fun, right? It's recreation. Yeah. But like, to go on that is like, I think that's where some of that issue comes in, because when some people are in the club but they're not pulling their weight, then it doesn't become fun for the few that are pulling all the weight, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, this is all for fun, but we're all in this together, right? Like, this is about, you know, doing it together so that we can all find the same enjoyment in it. Mm-hmm. And if just a couple people are pulling all that weight and everybody else is just enjoying the fun, well, then it doesn't become very fun for the people that are doing all the work, and then they want to stop doing it, right? So like, it's about that community all learning to put in that effort, right?
Well, I've heard the SAA of my chapter say a few times now, it's like, yeah, it's just for fun, but you play Monopoly with your family for fun. It's a game, it's for fun, but there's still rules. If people don't follow the rules, then it's no fun anymore, right? You know?
Yeah.
So again, there's that line. It's for fun, but there still is, like, it's still a club. It's still an MC. There's still things we need to do, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then I would say that, like, from my past inside the motorcycle club, but also just like in organizations, right? This comes to mind, you know, I know a couple of you guys listen to Hippie Sabotage too, but there's that song Options where he says, idle hands lead to evil thoughts, right? Is you see that, you know, very much come into play. Like, those people that literally do have the time and don't show up, those are the people that end up, like, you know, having negative feelings towards the club, because part of that is like they just feel guilt or shame that they're not being involved as much as they should, right? But then what they started doing is excusing why they're not being involved as much as they should, and then they're looking for reasons why, you know, the motorcycle club is, you know, doing them wrong, right? You know, one leader is being toxic or blah blah blah, you know, and they're start looking for reasons to blame the club, right? Well, you know, what are they doing about it? Like, they're just sitting at home doing what? You know, complaining,
bitching.
At least the people that are out there, you know.
Yeah.
At least they're out there working, right? And so I think I see that a lot, and I've seen that a lot happen with individuals, is like, when you're not actively involved, then you start thinking like bad stuff, right? Then you start like looking for reasons to be upset with the club, you know, or why the club might not be for you, you know, because you're putting that distance between yourself and the club first.
Well, Shots, you and I had this discussion a couple days ago, and back to, like, you know, mental health stuff, depression, anxiety, all that stuff. It's times like that where people feel the need to withdraw. And I'm going to ask Tom to talk about this. People feel the need to withdraw when in fact that's probably when you need the club the most. What do you think, Tom? I know you just talked about how you started to seek some treatment and stuff like that. How's how's that made a difference in your life, man? And I know Tom
100%.
Perez, he's one of my friends, and I know that like that's been a really good thing for you up there, right?
Yeah, like it's allowed me, and like I was just sitting there spinning my wheels and couldn't get going and like focus my attention to, I just couldn't give it what I needed to give it. And what you want to do is pull back and withdraw and just shut yourself down, right? Communicating the problem is not fun, not easy, but once you do it, you realize that you're like they're there and they reach out, folks that you wouldn't expect to reach out and like, hey, are you good? You need anything? And then it's not like follow up to that, right? Like it's been 2 weeks since I had initially made my original post to help, right?
Mm-hmm.
My VP and my P every couple of days and just being like, hey, everything's still going good? You doing good? Prez took me to woke his ass up at 5:30 in the morning just so he could get me to my appointment on time, right? Like, and if you don't allow your brothers to care and help you, you have to allow it and accept it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that communication is key, right? And so I think when some members are going through, lulls in their activity, it's our responsibilities as active brothers, to be reaching out to our brothers, right? Because we might not know why, they haven't been coming to stuff, Maybe it's that they're feeling uncomfortable, in the writing situation. Maybe it's because, they got some personal stuff going on that's taking a lot more of their time, or things that they just, are personally struggling with that they can't get over, So, but I feel like what we need to do is try to close that gap and that distance, because the longer that happens, the more that there becomes almost like an estrangement between like the group and the club and that individual, right?
Yeah. Well, I had a discussion with a brother a while back that was going through a real hard time, and we were kind of going back and forth, and I'm like, you know what, your wife and your kids need you to be strong for them. And I think he understood what I meant, but his response to me was like, oh, okay, we won't discuss this then because I need to be strong. I'm like, no, bullshit. I already know you're strong, but that's why you have your brothers. You can show your weakness to us. You can show your vulnerability to us. But when you go home, you need to be the man you need to be for your wife and kids, right? And that's an invaluable resource we have. But I think a lot of guys are maybe not comfortable sharing with their guy friends, right? But ultimately, I think that's the way it needs to be. That's why we have guy friends. That's why we have our tribe. That's why we have our club, right? Because we also need an outlet. We look like these big, strong, tough dudes, right? We have feelings too. We get sad too, you know what I mean? But there are other people in our lives that need us to be like the rock, right? And so in my mind, we use our brothers for the outlet. And then that way when we get home, we can be strong, right? I don't know.
And sometimes, we need to lean on the brotherhood to be the rock for us, when we're struggling, right? It's like, I feel like we have a lot depending on us, especially, brothers that are, married in relationships or have kids. Like, there's a lot depending on you every day. And for you to be tethered and to something that's higher than you, that's stronger than you, because you got a bunch of brothers together that, bound to, together are stronger than you. It's nice to have something that's higher up than you to be able to reach up and like pull from that strength in your life.
Well, I went through a time like that too for a short time, and my natural instinct was to withdraw, right? And Shots, you were like fucking obnoxious actually about it, but you wouldn't let me withdraw, right? You're like, no, dude, like, are you gonna talk to me? Are you gonna talk? Like, let's chat, let's this. At the time, I'm like, fuck, leave me the fuck alone. But at the end, I was super grateful though that you were so goddamn persistent and annoying about it, right? because at the time when I naturally wanted to withdraw was actually the time that I needed the club the most. So
Yeah, and like in that instance, right? I think there's a lot of great reasons why brothers, might want to part with the club, right? Um, like breaking bylaws, failure to follow bylaws, just complete inactivity of their own choosing, right? But when you see a good brother, that, suddenly wants to, withdraw, and is struggling with the club, and it just comes out of nowhere and it seems really weird to you, like you gotta, keep pushing on that, because there's probably something else there, right?
yeah,
That's not being addressed. And so, there's lots of good reasons to let somebody walk away. But, when you see somebody that there's not a good reason, hey, maybe you need to fight for it,
yeah.
Show them that the club cares about them.
I'm just getting
Go
bugged by Wolf.
Yeah.
One of these 15,000 dogs that I got.
Spoons is like that old cat lady, except for his dogs instead.
God. I'm going to bring up a comment here. What's up, Shadow? Thanks for joining us today.
That's all.
He said, not in a club, I'm a hang around, but there shouldn't be an excuse for laziness. I get we all work and have a family, but if you make that commitment, you need to own it. I would totally agree with that too. Like if you are looking at joining any type of motorcycle organization, right? If that's a motorcycle association, you need to look and see what is the time constraints for that association, right? If you were to look at joining a riding club, you'd want to look at, hey, this particular riding club I'm looking at, what's the particular time, that I'm dedicating to this. And an MC, most of the time that's more time that you are designating than like a motorcycle association or a riding club, right? There's a little bit more time commitment there. And so if you're looking to join an MC, you need to be owning that, right? And before you're choosing to prospect, you need to be, owning that time commitment, right? Keep in mind, if there's priorities that the MC says these comes first in your life, remember that those still come first, but own your time commitment at the same time. Like you can do that simultaneously.
Balancing act.
Yeah. So again, I guess that sort of brings it back, right? Like we all have reasons, we all have excuses, and some of them are legit and some of them may not be as legit, right? But at the same time, we're grown-ass men. You made a commitment, easy or hard. We got to at least, I feel like you need to at least do the minimums, right? The minimum requirements that we have in this club are not really all that hard to attain. So if you're not at least hitting those, then probably laziness is the word, right? But
yeah.
Especially if that person's not, that brother's not reaching out to you on it and saying, hey, I've got this or I've got that going on. If it's just dead silence all the time, then yeah, I think it's just laziness.
Yeah, I think my one caveat to that, I think, would be like people that are struggling with mental depression, or like it's like really bad anxiety attacks or depression. I don't think that's laziness on their part, because they literally can't get themselves to do it at that point,
different,
right?
I think, for sure, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Is I would say like that's something that I've come to realize. Like you need to be there to be, reaching out to them, because they just can't. They're in their own, head so bad that like they're just struggling trying to exist to a degree,
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the brotherhood comes in, is like we also need to be proactive, making sure we're reaching out. And sometimes it's hard breaking down those walls sometimes with people, right? Like we're all men, some of us, have a hard time, trusting other guys or, opening up to other guys. And so sometimes we need to be persistent about that. Sometimes we need to, keep trying until we can get a breakthrough, almost to the point where it's annoying, right, Judas? Like, but break down break down those walls, because then you can see what's going on, you know.
Is that where he learned it from? He was pretty persistent with me a week ago.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
Constantly drilling me.
Yeah, I think so. OD here in the comments says, I know that surrounding myself with people who help hold me accountable, but help keep my mind on track has helped me tremendously with my PTSD. But I still have to be open to accept their concern and help. So yeah, he's talking about the same thing. Like, everybody has their different internal struggles, but I think the brotherhood can offer a lot of help to you, right? A lot of strength to you. There's a lot of experiences that brothers have in the MC that can be a help to you. But if you don't let them know that you're struggling with them, how can they reach out that hand back, right? It's like, we're not Houdini. We can't read minds. Like, you got to open up. But that takes like a leap of trust, right?
Oh, fuck yeah. My phone more in the last 4 months than I have in the last 4 years with my wife or my kid. Like, and it's all not bad, just either checking in or just phone calls just to shoot the shit, right? Like, don't be afraid to pick up that phone and call. Like, a lot of us just get used to talk to, right? So our circle is growing and expanded now because of growth, and we need to just, like Joe said, check in.
Yeah. I was just going to read Joe's comment. He says he checks in with the brothers of his, chapter weekly as the VP of his chapter. So
Oh, sorry, I
it's awesome.
didn't see.
So
And don't be afraid to reach across chapter lines, like, out of pure simplistic care, right? Just to check up and say, hey, like, that's where we were at, and I appreciated it. Like, don't be afraid to, like, reach outside of your immediate network too. Like, that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I get phone calls all the time, so it's cool. I get opportunities to talk to guys, and sometimes my phone will be ringing. I'm like, oh, I haven't talked to this person for a while, like, so. And I think that's part of building brotherhood, sometimes just giving a brother a call when you feel like, hey, they're the guy that can help you out, or they're the guy who knows, the answer to your question. So I think communication is a big thing in this whole, thing with members, is like, maybe there's, the way I look at it is, there's either like a legit reason why somebody is not being super involved in the club, right? Or there is not a legit reason why, right?
well,
It's kind of trying to like sort that through, right? Is like, what is going on actually with this person? What do they have going on? Do they just have a baby, right? Or like, is there some big life experience that they're going through? Are they struggling with, anxiety or depression, and kind of like sorting out what's what, But if they're just not coming because they're prioritizing other things in their life, or that they're sitting at home thinking about, what the club, has done to hurt them, then that's probably a poor excuse, right? They just need to get out and put some work in the club.
all right, so let me be the mean guy here, okay? So we've kind of naturally, so we started off talking about laziness in the club, and because we all naturally mean well, we've spun off in this direction where we're assuming that they're not showing up to the club because they got shit fucked up in their head, right? Which may or may not be true, but there are a percentage of them out there that are just pure lazy. So let's discuss that now. Let's go to somebody who just wants a patch on their back, but they don't want to show up. They don't want to be a part of the club. They don't want to be a brother. They want a patch on their back so they can tell their friends they're in an MC. And yeah, what do you say to that? We talked for a half hour now on mental health. Let's go back to what we originally were gonna discuss here.
Yeah, and I would say, this probably isn't the place for you.
If that's the case.
If that's the case,
Yeah.
right? is like it's going back to those expectations, that Shadow, I think, had mentioned in a comment before, is like, if you're getting into it, know what the expectations are, and either knock it out of the park or don't, right? It's like you have an option. Are you going to meet your obligations or are you not? Is this going to be something you prioritize in your life or is it not?
Well, it's like we had a talk a couple weeks ago, like what's the difference between somebody who owns a bike and a biker, right? Somebody who actually rides, right? So if that's what you want, maybe an MC is not for you, but maybe an RC is for you. If you want to be in a club, you want to be around people, or maybe you just stay in it independent, right? And ride with friends when you can, right? But when you commit to a brotherhood, there's a commitment there. That means something, right? Not that you'll just go out and ride bikes, but also means that you're going to be there for each other away from the biker part too, right? I mean, we hung out last night at one of my brother's house and we watched the fights and we had some drinks. We joked around with our wives and there were kids there, and like, it's a family, right? Tom's not in my chapter. I'm not his P, but man, I fucking love it when that guy shows up, right? We hung out this weekend, and you can get close. Like, the way I see it is like your chapter is like your immediate family, and then the rest of them are like your extended family, right? And if that's not what you want, if you're never going to show up, you don't value that time with your brothers, then like you said, Shots, maybe it's not the right place for you.
Yeah. And that should be, I think, something that...
What's that, Tom?
I said the agendas and the objectives aren't secret, right? Right? We know what we've got. It's been set up to where, like, a Neanderthal objectives and meet the tasks of what we need to do to succeed and not. And if we can't meet those, we need the accountability. It's only a matter of time before the accountability hammer is going to strike, and you're not going to like where it hits.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, once again, right, this is where it's going to become an issue because, like, things are going to catch up. If you're in a club that's worth their salt, you're going to get a warning, you're going to, whether that's verbal and a written, but then eventually, there's going to be a disciplinary action against you if you continue to not be able to meet the activity requirements of the MC, right? And so the same people that are going to, have these disciplinary actions against them are the same people that are going to be like, I'm a victim, right? I'm a victim. The club is picking on me, right? Like, how dare this person does this to me, right? I'm a victim.
Well, we live in a time right now where everyone fucking wants to be a victim.
Right. But that's kind of what I was going back to with that original quote, right? Like, idle hands lead to evil thoughts, right? Is like, when you don't do anything, then like, you don't think that it's ever your fault.
Yeah.
But just because you're the lazy one doesn't mean you can blame people that are putting in lots of work. If that work isn't something you agree with, then you either get in there and work side by side or you leave.
Yeah, you can go in and, like, if you don't agree with what they're doing, you can go in and work to change it. At least it shows you care.
Yeah. Like, there's lots of people that are going to put in a lot of work in the club that might even have differing points of view, but they're both putting in work. And at the end of the day, they might bring, this to the table and this to the table. And whichever one gets voted on, it's what the club's going to go with. They feel differently about it, but they both are putting in the same amount of work,
Yeah. I would rather somebody disagree with me, but I can at least tell they care, than for them to just disappear and talk shit behind people's backs, right? So.
But I think what you're getting at when you were talking about how it makes your brain numb when you hear somebody, say something at the table when you haven't been seeing them around, right? And so, like, if this is truly the case, like, that you care about somebody else's opposing opinion, you would care more about someone else's opposing opinion if you saw them more,
Yeah. Well,
right?
it's kind of like this, right?
Because it makes your brain numb to the fact that like they're not here for everything else. Why are they here now?
It's kind of like this, right? Like I'm kind of a gym rat, right? And there's a saying in that world, right? Don't ever pay a trainer who needs a trainer, right? If you show up and you want to pay somebody to train you, but they are not in good shape themselves, they may have the book learning, they may have the knowledge, and they may be really good at what they do. They may be able to give you the instruction to get the most ripped physique you've ever had. But if the dude's 50, 60 pounds overweight, or if he's skinny and he's small and he's not muscular, your brain goes numb. You just have no respect for what he says, right? It just is what it is, right? So especially for leadership, I think it's super important that whether they have the time, whether they want to, whether they don't, they get out and they show the club that they're going to ride hard, they're going to charge hard, and they're going to practice with what they preach. I just think that that's an important thing.
It's like being the guy that always comes up with a problem but never offers. Kind of the same concept.
Yeah.
Can't tell you how many phone calls I've taken from people that are like members in the club in the past that are just like complaining about something or complaining about a brother, right? And I'm a brother, so I'll sit and listen, right? But in my head, I'm thinking, dude, what are you doing to enact, to change this situation, right? It's like, I get this is how you feel about it, but what are you doing to change the way that you feel about it? Because I don't feel that way about this, right? And if I don't feel that way, this isn't my problem. This sounds more like a you problem. And what are you doing to change it? Right. And so, and I'll say that to them because that's what brothers do. They'll tell you, honestly how they feel, and I'll listen and, I'll say, hey, I'm sorry, that you feel that way. But at the end of the day, you feel that way. Take responsibility of your feelings, own it. And what are you doing to change it? Because guess what? I can't change the way that you feel about that. That's a you thing, not a me thing. Right? And so I think the sooner that we can get people to realize is like your relationship with this club and this family is your responsibility. Right? Your responsibility is to stay tied into it. If somebody offends you, it's not the club's, job to make sure that, you guys are all buddy again. It's your job to make sure that you fix your shit so that you can stay good with the club and this family, right? It's what are you doing to prioritize this family? Don't don't distract this family's purpose and the club's purpose with the petty shit. Like fix your petty shit so you can add to the club and the family and helping us move forward.
Right. Hey, Spoons, question for you really quick. Use your fucking words. That's right. Hey, Spoons, question real quick. So Spoons is my VP. We have a real tight chapter. In your opinion, Spoons, why do you think that our chapter is so tight? What it is we do, or like, why is it?
We communicate a lot. We're like every day, all day long, that phone is just blowing up, whether it's just horsing around or if it actually is business or just whatever. We're constantly communicating. I mean, from 7 o'clock in the morning till 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Right. I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that we care about each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. So
I've just that's been like a hard thing, I think, for me is like there's been a lot of really awesome people in the club and I really enjoy them as a person, but their lack of ability to just communicate with the club is draining on the club, right? Is like, I want to reach out and communicate to you, but if I'm the only one reaching out to communicate to you and I only get responses half the time, like that's draining, right? And so do what you need to do to stay connected to the club. If it means anything to you, you know,
Yeah.
if there's something going on, communicate it, you know, but if you're not communicating and all of your interactions with the club have been the club reaching out to you in a certain period of time, like you probably need to reassess your situation and see if you're going to be a part of this club or not.
Well, you're only going to reach out so many times before you're not anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I've had friends like that, whether it be friends that I ride with, whether it be friends I do other stuff with, who knows what, right? But I'm only going to ask you to do something a few times with no response, or you bail on me last second, or you flake, whatever, before I just stop asking, right? So you might have an issue, you might have depression, you might have this or that, but at least you can take the time to respond, right? And give people at least that much respect, right? It might be hard for you to do. You may not want to. You may want to withdraw, but if you refuse to respond and all of a sudden all the people disappear from your life, you're stomping on your own dick, right? Because you're making your own life more difficult.
You can only use the excuse of depression to carry you so far in life before and get your shit fixed. Plain and simple. And I'm speaking from experience, and I'm not attacking anybody other than myself in that comment. Like, you just got to man up forever, because eventually people are going to get sick and tired of hearing the bullshit excuse and just be like, dude, it's a lost cause at that point. And they're going to move on from you.
Yeah.
Oh, I better plug in my computer here. It's about to die, actually. I just saw.
And I don't know anything along those lines, but like I said, that's a direct self. Like, when I speak on that, I'm not speaking to anybody other than me. So,
Well, I fully understand depression. I fully understand anxiety. You guys can all tell out there that I stutter. There was a time in my life where I couldn't fucking string more than 2-3 words together, and it was really fucking hard. There were times that I wanted to go to bed and just never fucking wake up again. Right? I get that life's hard. I get that it's, shitty. I get that sometimes you're dealt a really fucking hard hand in life. Right? But had I just withdrew, and had I let myself do what I naturally wanted to do, is just never speak and be shy and not put myself out there, I would have missed out on what I have now, right? Who I am now. Just because you're depressed, it's an excuse, and it's a legit excuse. But I'm going to be the guy right here that's going to say you have to fucking man up and grab your balls, and you got to do the hard shit. Because if you don't, then guess what? Your depression wins. If I didn't, my stutter would have won. I know people that never speak. They pretend to be mute, and they write fucking notes, right? They pretend they can't speak because it was too hard for them to try to overcome. It was too hard for them to face their hardship. And I was always a kid that I refused to fucking let that win, right? And it took me several decades of my life. Believe it or not, it's not been until probably the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years of my life where it's still there, but it's not an issue, right? For a long time, it was an issue. Every fucking time I opened up my mouth and spoke. So I get depression. I get that, all that shit, right? But you got to fucking face that shit or it wins.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that takes a strong person to do. And I think one of the benefits of being in a motorcycle club is you have guys to your right and your left that are willing to even help push you, right? Like, you don't even have to do it alone. But you do got to hold on to our arms so that we can help you, you do have to tie in, because if you don't fully tie in, we can't help you. We don't know.
Yep.
I agree to that. I've always been the shy type. I've never been the one to approach somebody. I've always been the quiet type. I've always been the one to just sit and listen and not speak. And since being a part of this club, guys, I've learned so much. I've pushed myself. You guys have pushed me to become a better person. So it's the wife sees it, the kids see it. I mean, it's been amazing. I love it.
And I think that's what the brotherhood should be about, right? It should be like that pack mentality, but not like a negative pack mentality. It's like that pack mentality. It's like always pushing you, right? In some way, they're pushing you. And sometimes different brothers are pushing you in different aspects, right? It's like all about that growth process, right? But it's all about you have to plug in, right? And part of that plugging in is being active. Whatever way you can, find a fucking way and be active, right? Like, there is lots of ways to be active. You could be that party planner in the club where all you do is like, dude, you just throw parties at your house. But be active and contribute to the club, right? Whatever you're doing, find ways to be active and contribute. Because as soon as you stop contributing and you build that distance away from the club, then all of a sudden you're thinking those evil thoughts about the club, right? It's like, what is the club doing to you? Why is the club not perfect? And literally it's because you're just sitting there and not doing anything. Work. Put something into the club. I guarantee you, this is like the one word of advice I tell everybody. Sweat equity. Sweat equity. Like, you get out of the club what you put into it. Period. The more that you put into the club, it seems like it would be worse, right? It seems like, oh, the more that I'm giving to the club, my life's going to suck because it's taking away this much time and this much money. But the more that you put into the club, the more that you get out of it, right? And so, yeah, you're inputting more than other people or other brothers, but you're getting out more of it too, and it makes it worth it, right? If you just invest in the club, then you'll get that back in return. I guarantee you, you'll feel that strong brotherhood. You'll get these feelings like Spoons is getting, where he's like, it's making me a better man. It's making me a more productive person. It's making me a better dad, right? But you don't get that if you don't let the club help you.
Yep.
Like, whatever you're going through, it might be, mental stuff. It might be financial stuff. It might be physical stuff, or work stuff, whatever. Like, we all got our own shit, but plug in because the club can help you, and don't let, your laziness or your excuses stop you from getting the benefits that the club has to offer and the brotherhood has to offer you.
And I think it's important to remember this: when we're asking you to be active in the club, what are we asking you to do? We're asking you to go out, ride motorcycles, hang out with your friends, maybe have some beers. I don't think that sounds so bad. I think that sounds cool as shit to me.
Fuck, I have fun hanging out with you guys sober.
Well, shit.
I got to drink the last 2 damn weeks. I'm so freaking sad. Like, Scott's over there drinking that drink, and I'm just like, I didn't make one before I came downstairs. Like a freaking. But no. If you hang out with people, man, you all love you. We all care. Like, we don't have to know every detail of your life enough that we can know when there's a change in your life.
Yeah, if you talk to somebody enough, and you get to know them, even the little things that are off about them, you start noticing, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I'll reach out to brothers a couple times, and even I just like hang out with them. I hear their voice on the phone. I'm like, dude, are you doing okay? Because I can start like seeing those little differences on like people's personalities. And I think that's a huge key to it all, right? Is like, if you aren't interacting with brothers, then you're missing those opportunities for brothers to check in with you when they start seeing those little differences, right? So, this chat message was from a hang around down south. He says, righteous dudes doing righteous shit. It's more than just a fun thing to do for those I've seen. Brandon says, shots, what's your opinion on members you don't see often and keep that level of respect? we discussed this, but I think it might have some relevance benefits to touch on in this video.
I think he
Okay.
came in right after
Yeah,
Judas.
that's a good question. So there is there's a couple brothers, in our club, and this is probably the case in most clubs, I imagine, right? That are guys that have been around longer, but you see less. And then you got guys that are newer and they're coming in the club, and there's all these, requirements for them to keep, as far as rides go and activities. And then you get some of the newer guys saying, well, like, what about this, older brother in the club that we don't see as much, right? And I got a few thoughts on that. Is just respect, right? I think that's a big thing that Brandon was talking about here, is respect. Is the club wouldn't be where we're at today without those individuals, right? And so respect them for that. And there's a lot of brothers that have come and gone over the years in our early stages, and they're still here, right? So respect them for that. Like, they care about the club enough to still be here, right? And when the club started, we didn't have, some of these same requirements. And this is a growing process for us. And so there is a little bit of that grandfathered in for them, right? And, Judas mentioned it for one of them, has, had some really bad luck of being in 2, automobile accidents in the last couple of years, right? So I would say for those that, are older than you, you should always just show them that respect and reverence in the club, right? Let their peers, those that, have that time and grade in the club with them, let them deal with that. That's not your problem, right? Respect us enough to let us, deal with our brothers. And what you should be worrying about is, what are you doing to build your brothers and your brotherhood, right? Those are my thoughts, I guess, on it. You guys have any questions for me on that?
No, I think
To the
that's
point.
I think that's accurate.
Is, the club has changed a lot, and
Well,
For
as
the
the club grows,
for the
as a club-
better, and I love it.
as the club grows, there's going to be people in other chapters that are not doing things the way that you would do things, or the way that you would expect. They may be older, they may be younger, who knows? But ultimately, what I've talked to my guys about, like we just talked about, how, like, it's about our chapter, and then the rest of the clubs are extended family, right? And to some point, it's like, not our circus, not my monkeys, right? So, like you said, let those peers deal with that, right? But you can learn from that, though, right? As you build your own crew, you build your own chapter. This, it's like this, right? Take me and my family, right? My mom and my dad. There were things I loved about their relationship that I saw, and there were things I absolutely fucking could not stand about their relationship. So in my life, in my own relationship, I'm going to take the good, I'm going to leave the bad. The bad things I saw might motivate me even more to not be like that, right? We can apply that same thought to our club, right? There may be guys in your club that aren't doing what you think they ought to do. Well, like you said, they're older. Maybe you should respect them just because they're the OGs. They've been around since the start, and the expectations from the start were not the same as they might be now, right? So you take the good, you leave the bad, right? You don't bring that into your own chapter, into your own immediate family. You leave that there, right? But ultimately, if they're not in your chapter, and I have to remind myself of this too, right? So I'm not like being preachy here. If they're not in your chapter, not my circus, not my monkeys. Does that make sense? Or did I just ramble on?
No, dude, it makes total sense to me.
So,
No, I agree. And you just got to remember this, right? Is like, those guys were on board for us to be where we are today because it took their votes to get us to, where we are today, right?
yeah.
And so, they share that same vision and they want the same things. Sometimes it's hard for people to change, right? And when you look at the total history of clubs, right? You might be joining a club that's well established, that's been around for 50 years, right? And you just got to get on board, and this is what their current culture is. Well, with a club like the one that we're a part of, we're a young club. Like, we are hitting 6 years this month, right? And so that's a very young club. When you talk about some of these clubs are, 60 plus years old, right? And so we have a lot to learn still. And yeah, things are changing rapidly for us, but for the better. And if you want to have a say in the direction of where that goes, be active in your local chapter and vote, right? Because that's what's going to make the change. Is like, if you want to have a say in where this goes, and be active and vote. Like, everybody has the same say and same vote.
I think it always comes down to this. I say be the example, right? You don't have any right to bitch and moan if you're not willing to do it yourself, right? So if you want to have a hard charging chapter and you want to get out and you want to ride, you're going to ride rain or shine, well, whatever the case may be, then that's what you have to do too, right? So be the example, and maybe some will follow and maybe some won't, right? But eventually the people will separate themselves. I think, like you said, like, go back to the start of it. If it's not for you, it's not for you, right? So
yeah. You guys have any additional thoughts on that? Dreadhead and Spoons.
Pretty fun.
come on, Spoons. I know you got thoughts, man.
I do, but they'll probably freaking come into my head after this is all over.
After it's all over, man, I should have said that.
Yeah. No. Nothing's coming up.
Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, I think the general message I think that's been sent is there might be valid reasons why people, are distancing themselves from the club, right? Maybe there's not valid reasons and they're just lazy, straight up just lazy, right? And we have an obligation as brothers to reach out to them and see, what's going on with them, because we want to keep that communication so that we can have a feel of what's going on in their lives, right? We know that the club would be better for them. But for those of you that aren't doing what you can, that aren't pulling your weight, just know that becomes cancerous for the club. That's a fact, right? Because when you're not doing anything, you start having evil thoughts, right? Evil thoughts about your brothers don't care about you. Evil thoughts about, hey, the club hasn't done anything for me, or this president, just runs the show of my chapter. It doesn't matter what I think. But if you just were telling them how you were feeling about what was going on in your life, you would realize that they care more about you than you know. And that's the truth. So don't sit there and spin your own narrative because you're being home and being lazy and telling yourself lies about everybody else. Instead, be honest with yourself and be honest with your brothers and solve the fucking problem. I feel like that's the biggest issue is people not being straight up honest with themselves and honest with their brothers about what's going on.
And I'll say this from the opposite side of that to people who are more active. I'll just say this, like, if you're not showing up, whether your reasons are legit or they're not, but if you're not showing up, you're not communicating, people are just going to have ideas. They are going to have perceptions, right? Again, it may not be right. It may not be fair, but that is just fucking the way it will be. So you can't necessarily be offended by the fact that they have perceptions of you because you're the one not showing up, right? They are going to have feelings about that. They just are. Okay. Now, if you want to mitigate that and you want to help that situation, here's what I would say. If you can't show up to a meeting, if you can't show up to a ride, give a call, give a text. Hey, man, I really feel bad. I can't make it because of X, Y, or Z. What I respect a lot is if someone's like, hey, man, I can't make this meeting, but then they offer a solution on their own, but I can call in. Or as soon as I get back into town, me and you, we can sit down and you can go over the notes and the minutes with me, right? Instead of just saying, hey, I can't go because I got this, right? No, call up, let me know why you're not there, offer a solution. We will work it out. That's fine, right? But if it's just like, dude, you never show up for anything, I don't ever see you on a bike, people are going to have a perception of that. And it's not up to you to control that. They're going to have their own, like when things don't make sense, people connect dots, right? And the dots may not actually connect. They may draw conclusions that are completely off base, right? But the only way you can control that and make sure that they understand is to communicate with them.
Yeah, that communication's been key for a lot of this, right?
Accountability.
And
is
when you
law.
do show up participating, or you just showing up and being there and not participating, like get dirty. Are you willing to grab a table and clean up after a meeting? Or are you willing to stack up chairs? Like it's being there, like be there, but be active while you're there. Don't just be there and be like, I'm going to pound 12 beers and not lift a hand anything other than lifting a hand to his mouth. And I'm not saying that I've seen that where people aren't helping, but I'm sure there are instances where just you got to watch out for it. Like laziness comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors.
Yeah, I agree. Marine Writer says, being available for Club Brothers anytime is a huge deal in my book. I would agree. And I would say that, if you call me at 2 a.m., if I'm awake, I will call you back. Like, that's the kind of person I am, right? If I don't see it, if you call me at 10, I don't see it till 2 a.m., I'll call you in the morning, right? But I will make myself available to you. And I can tell you that I know that, like, a lot of our brothers in the club, they do the same thing. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone with brothers and we're just talking about other brothers' well-being, right? Hey, have you checked in on this guy? Yeah, we probably should, reach out to him. We both haven't seen him for a bit, right? And so, hey, your brothers are talking about you, If when you haven't been around a bit, just reach out, So I think that goes on all the way around, right? There's that communication.
Yeah.
In my circle that I could have called and been like, hey, I need you to take me at 6 o'clock appointment on a Saturday. They might want to get up and go ride on a Saturday, but they don't want to haul somebody to a damn doctor's appointment. But when your brother steps up and says, hey, you're not missing your appointment, you know that you got people in your corner.
Yeah,
it's awesome, dude.
I agree. And Treadhead, you got a good pee, man.
Blessed.
Yep, he's a good dude. So, anyways, did we beat this one to death?
I think so. Did it go for the jugular as much as you thought it was going to go for, Judas?
Yeah, sure. We can throw some more if you want.
Yeah. And this is the thing, right? Is like, I'm a guy who, will be pretty straightforward shooter with you on a lot of things, right? And like, I'm active and I expect everybody else to do the same, right?
Well, we haven't said a single thing on this that we wouldn't say to our brothers' faces, right? And we know that because this is on the fucking internet and we're going to ask them all to watch it, right? So, yeah. So, no, with all due respect to the OGs, to this and that, right? I just feel like we need, if we're going to be in a motorcycle club, we need to ride bikes, right? And it's just, we show up to meetings, we show up when we're supposed to, we show respect to our cut that we wear, to the patch we wear, and whether you're new or old, I think you should have that same respect, right? So, and actually, whether you're new or old, we're a fairly new club. We're all new, for hell's sake, right? 10, 15,
but you're all going to be old. So.
Down the road, the club will be more established and we'll all be OGs in the club, right? But as of right now, I mean, we're all pretty new still, right? So whether you are a founder or not, it's still a new club, right? So we're all still trying to start this thing off in the right direction. What's that, Dreadhead?
I said some of us are real fucking new.
right? But
Yeah, but like that's one of the cool things, and I was just talking about this with others, right? Is like that's one of the really fucking cool things for me to see, like over time, is be able to see like new people added here and there, and to see like the writing formation change, and then see it tighten back up again, right? And then like seeing more new people added in, and the writing formations go through their like forming, storming, and norming to other, tighten back up again. Everyone's writing, and it does the same thing with the organization, right? We see like we get a couple of new prospects and newer members, and we see some issues come up, things are addressed, and we tighten everything back up, and then we move on. And it's really cool for me to see the process work, right? To see the brothers that are coming in, to see the group writing get super tight and awesome, right? And I love it, dude. I think it's one of the coolest things, and you really start to see that trust being built between brothers. And when you see that same trust being built between a bigger number of people, it's a pretty cool experience to watch,
I agree. It's been awesome. We had an event yesterday. My chapter did their service project as their, and it was in fucking March, right? Like it's cold outside. There was snow on the road. We actually rode through snow for fuck's sake, right? But to see the amount of brothers that actually like showed up in spite of that. 3 of you had to because your bikes were locked in my garage for the week. But
Yeah.
But still, like to see the support on a cold, somewhat miserable, windy day, it was awesome. It went off. It was great, So brotherhood's real. It's real and it's important, and it's become way more important in my life than I initially expected it to.
It's alive and breathing, yeah, and it's a living thing, and you have to nourish it if you want it to keep growing inside of you, right? And so you got to keep working to do that. And as soon as you start distancing yourself for whatever reasons, personal or stupid reasons, right? Like it's not a good thing. So we as brothers, we need to try to close that gap with individuals in our club that are doing it. And for those individuals that are out there watching this video, just communicate with your brothers and let us know what's going on so we can find a way to pull you in and help you feel the benefits and become active. There is no reason why you shouldn't be active. Whatever reason that is, the brotherhood can work on and fix that reason. I believe that 100%. If it's writing, there's brothers that are willing to go out there and ride with you.
I saw that yesterday.
If it's family stuff, there are brothers that want to do family shit with you, because we all got, a lot of us have kids and families, right? Like there's brothers that will, spend time with you in that direction. Whatever you need from the brotherhood and the club, dude, there are guys that will bend over backwards for you, but you got to fucking communicate, and you got to show at least a portion of the same commitment that others are putting in, right? Like show something, put a step forward. If all you can do is one step, like just give a step forward this week, and then next week, 2 steps forward. What are you doing to be a better brother today? What are you doing to make the club better today? Right? If you just think about that every day, those questions. What are you doing to be a better brother today? What are you doing to make the club better today? That could be your chapter, right? Like there's plenty of stuff. There's so much work to do. Just pick little things and be active. Just do what you can. No one's asking you to be perfect, but we're just asking you to give something.
And don't go outside of your means to feel like you have either. Like everybody has a limit. Don't exceed your limit if you don't have to.
Be real with yourself, right? Like I think that realism part is important, right? Is like don't overcommit. Like if you're in this for the long haul, this is a marathon, right? You can't sprint to the finish if this is a marathon, right? So if you're thinking about this as being a life thing, you got to take that in pace a little bit, because if you just dump everything in it now, then all of a sudden you're gone, right? So it's got to be sustainable effort that we're looking for, not just like a one and done.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys getting on. Marine Rider. This is a guy I've been in contact with. He's a cool dude. I got on his show a couple weeks ago. I want to interview his club, but he's in a 99% COC club that started, like, I believe last year. So he said, great topic show. I've got to bounce. I'll hit you up later, shots. Sounds good, Marine Rider. Let's get on. I want to interview your club.
Cool.
Brandon Grobman says, and don't wear Vans. I think a lot of us do, but maybe not when it's snowing.
I don't think Brandon owns anything but Vans.
Yeah.
My name's Brandon also, and I always wear.
But Brandon, like, get some riding boots too for when it's snowing outside.
Dude, Brandon, I wear Vans in some summertime too, brother. But man, boots in the wintertime will change your fucking world, man.
Especially out here, we'll take you on a snowy road.
I don't know how you feel your toes still, Brandon, but you know.
I don't know either.
The hang around down south says commit your 100%. Not everyone else is. As Strike says, ride your ride on and off the bike.
I like it.
As long as your ride can meet the minimums, put forth that effort, and just because, you have the ability to reach the minimums, don't just reach the minimums and be like, whew, I'm off free for the month. If you got more to give it, because there is going to be a return for it. I promise you. Right. Like every time I've been like, man, I got a fucking busy day or a busy weekend. There's a lot of club stuff. The more club stuff that I'm like, I stretch myself to do, I'm always grateful that I did. Always. Like there's never a time where there's never been a time I went to something when I was like, man, I shouldn't have went to that club thing. Never.
There's minimums, right? But what I found when I first got in is like, yeah, there's minimums, but you just kind of naturally end up way over exceeding them because you want to, right? Just because it's fun, right? So, I mean, when I'm not around you guys, I fucking miss you guys. I can't wait until the next thing, right? The night before a ride, I'm like a fucking kid before Christmas, right? I can't fucking sleep, right? So, if it's in your blood and it's something that you desire and like a lifestyle you live, like the minimums are like, man, they're not hard at all, right? So if they are hard to hit and it's just simply, if it's not because of work that makes it harder or something, but if it's hard to hit because it's just a lot for you, then the MC may not be for you, I would say.
And there's other options, and that's okay, right?
That's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Even in our family of, with the MC, we have an RC, and that's supposed to be what that's supposed to, fill that bill, right? Is like, if you can't meet these minimums and these time requirements and you do have too much going on, just join the RC, we'll just hang around and just like come ride with us. We'll send out all of our rides to you, right? You can participate at whatever level you want, but at whatever level that you're at, fulfill, right? It's like, don't shoot, for the highest, but you're really only going to be able to perform the lowest, right? It's like, we give people a wide variety of options. And so just choose wisely, like be true to yourself.
And it's okay to start at lower levels too. I mean, I'll be honest, I got into the RC first, found out the MC was more my speed, right? But I didn't know at first, right? I'm like, well, I don't know if I can commit that much time. I don't know if I can commit all these things, right? But I found out the MC was more my speed, right? And not only did it become more my speed, but I ended up pres, and now I got a whole lot more time that I commit. But I do it because I enjoy it and I love it, right? So you can get your feet wet slowly. That's fine. That's absolutely okay,
Yeah, but when you're, at that level, perform at that level, right?
Right, yeah. Do what you commit to because you're a grown-ass man, and that's what men do.
Yeah. All right. OD says, so true, shots. If you're not pushing yourself, does it really mean what you say it does? And I think that's the point, right? Is like, I was talking about this the other day with a member of a different club. Is value, right? Is like, how much are your club dues? Does your club mean that much to you? And to some people, it might be like, dude, I'd be willing to pay a lot more just to be a part of this club, right? I would. right? I think our club dues are, pretty decent, right? But for some people, they're not prioritizing even those dues, right? And so, does the club not mean that much to you? And so, when you think about it, is hey, those dues, those fees, they're all there for a reason, right? If there wasn't a reason for them to be there, trust me, they wouldn't be there, right? But it's all for a purpose, and that purpose is to grow the club. So if you really love the club, that shouldn't be such a drag for you to want to pay those.
And the dues go to your club, right?
Yeah.
You know, like
They go to your club to further the brotherhood,
I actually would be in favor of my chapter dues increasing so that we have enough money to buy a project bike once a year.
Yeah.
Build it, right? And donate it or sell it or do whatever. But I just think it'd be a cool thing for us all to do, right? Like, to know that your dues go towards your brotherhood, your club. Like, you're not throwing your money away. You're paying into something that's valuable to you, right?
So once again, like, there's some brothers situations that I've been like truly sympathetic about their financial situation, being like, I get that maybe the dues are a little bit of a hardship of you, but I still think they're worth it, right? And there's other brothers that I see complaining about the dues, but then I see them buying really stupid shit, right? And I'm just gonna say this, right? Like, don't tell me that really stupid shit you bought is more important than me.
If you can afford to buy
Right?
that's
what you're doing. If you're not prioritizing your dues, you're telling me that stupid shit you're buying is more important than our brotherhood, right? So
quite literally, a Monster a day for the year or a coffee a day for the year is, I mean, if you can do that, you can pay your dues in this club, right? The dues are not excessive, right?
Just don't buy so many cigarettes.
Buy one less case of beer a month.
Instead of going out to eat every day for lunch, like, make yourself some PB&Js. Like, does your brotherhood not mean that much to you? Like, you make the decision, but like, that's like an additional like side of this, right? Is like,
that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, it's another topic for another day, but but it brings back to the same topic. I feel like is if you really truly see the value in what this is, you wouldn't be lazy and you wouldn't be caring about your dues, right? Is like, you're apparently not seeing the bigger picture here, because you would get that the more that you put in, the more you're gaining. You're getting a 3 times return on your investment, and it's hurting you not investing in yourself.
And it's not like you can't see where the money's going. It's not hidden.
Yeah, I mean, all that's, completely available at any time, to any brother.
But if you're only, so you see the minimums, and if you only give the minimum in the club and expect it to, do you only give the minimum in your relationships and your personal relationships outside of the club, and they won't? You've got to give more than just the minimums, or it's never going to go further, or you'll figure out that it's not for you and you got to go.
When we talk about dues, right, it seems like, well, there's money I have to pay to. In fact, we had a discussion, me and you, Shots, about somebody that said, why should I have to pay to have friends, right? It's not like that, right? We pay so that we can support this organization. That being said, Shots, I knew you before the club, so you're exempt from this. But without the club, I wouldn't know Spoons. I wouldn't know Tom. I wouldn't know all these guys. That is fucking priceless, right? Spoons and I live like 3 minutes away from each other. We had no clue until this club came about, right? Mm-hmm. But that to me is priceless, right? And the organization that helps make that work, that we have to pay some dues to, is more than fine with me, because the dues support that group. And I can't fucking wait for our trip that's going to come up, that the dues help support that shit, right? Like, we're going to take a club trip and it's going to be a fucking blast, right? So there is nothing about this whole thing that's not worth it right? So the dues are very, very minimum part. In fact, when we go out to eat, we have weekly rides. We go out to eat afterwards. I bet you we spend in 2 weekly rides, we spend as much on dinner as what our fucking dues are, for hell's sake, right? They're not a lot, right?
Yeah. But once again, that's like what I was getting at. It doesn't matter what the value is set as. There's always going to be people that complain about it, right?
Right.
And those people that are complaining about it is like they're not finding the value in it to make it worth it to them, and they should reassess that, right? Is there, yeah, maybe this isn't the value for you, and leave, because if you don't value the club at what we're giving you a value for, then it's not for you, because we feel like it's pretty decent for the type of people that what we're wanting to, join the club. So
Agreed.
find that value, find other ways that you can give value to the club. If it means more to you than what your dues are worth, find other ways to give back to the club and increase that club's value. Like if you want it to mean more to you and others, then give back more. You get out of it what you put into it. Sweat equity. Same thing with your relationships, like you get out of your relationship what you put into it. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys getting on. I know we kind of harped on that a bit, but it's something I feel pretty strong about. And it comes up in my mind often. I think about different angles of it, as I talk about it with brothers, and I think about it. It's definitely, as a member of a motorcycle club, I don't think it's something that you cannot think about, because we're constantly looking at other brothers and seeing, are they meeting the standard, right? And I think that's just part of the process, is we want everybody to be putting into it, the same level. We want everyone to buy into it, right? Have the same buy.
I think it should come down to this. Last thought for me, and then I'll shut my trap here. For those of us that ride a ton and want to ride a ton, we should be less judgmental of those who don't show up as often. And for those who don't show up as often, you should really question as to why you don't, and you should try to show up more often.
Yeah.
I think both sides have work that we need to do.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying, is that I think that there's probably a more middle ground, and both sides need to be putting in a little bit more work. So what I'm saying is, like, let's try to close that gap, because I think that would be better for the brotherhood itself, the club.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're that reason why the gap's not closing, like, you need to fix yourself. Right? That becomes like a toxic situation. So
Agreed.
All right, brothers. Hey, thank you guys for getting on. I'll chat with you guys later, and hopefully there's less snow this week so we can get out and ride again. Hell yeah.
Cool. Love you guys. Out.
See ya.
Later, Dreadhead. Later, Spoons. Later, Judas. I'm digging your photo in the back, man.
Thanks, man.
It's dope. Later.
Later.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us with Drink with Shots, episode 2, talking about lazy members and a couple different perspectives on that. I think it was really good information. Once again, if you have topics that you would like to discuss, please hit that in the comments and we can discuss it in a future episode. Also, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate your support. We're just trying to put out good information to help the community and to grow. So you guys have a great Sunday. Peace.